leading the rebellion from the corporate 9 to 5. You are now listening to the Maniac Mentor Monday Motivation Podcast.
You have special access to something that you know people need, and you can use that as a product to get to other people. You know, thrift store. You know, do you have a collection of stuff? You know, and I mean, if you're a collector, man, it's like it's a no-brainer.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your Maniac Mentor Monday Motivational Minute with your hosts, Matt Aponte and Jeffrey Wood. And this is episode 94.
Episode 94. Yes.
Yeah.
We're getting closer.
Yeah.
We're getting closer. We're eking up to that 100, that centennial.
I know, right? We're going to have to pop some 100. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about, is a product-based business for me?
Yes.
So what we decided to do, right, is there's so many people who want to start a side hustle, want to start a business, but you kind of really don't know what you can do. You don't know what you can do, how you can do it. Should you sell something? Should you not sell something? All of these other things. And then on top of that, you know, there's something about kind of being raised with the entrepreneurial gene, or at least being predisposed to it, like I was with my dad, is that everything that you see around you, you kind of have a tendency to say, oh man, I could make money off of this.
Yeah.
But not, you know, like that's great, but not everybody's like that. We understand that a lot of our listeners aren't like that. So we're going to help. And that's why we started this first series. So this is what, we got 7, Jeff?
That's right. We got 7 episodes in this series. We're calling it, Is That For Me? Or Is This For Me? We want you to remember, Matt, like our first episode of 2019, we had everybody do a brainstorm, right? We had them write down every single thing, and every idea that they've ever had about this one thing and what's going to break them free from their jobby job. Then we had them go ahead and categorize all that stuff. So you should be sitting there with a brainstorm with an outline. Now what we're going to do is we're going to help you sift through all that information, get through your outline, and help you decide on what type of business is going to be the one for you based on what you determine from your brainstorm.
Yeah. And the first one we're going to go over is a product-based business. So what do you say we jump into this, buddy?
That's it. Let's bring in that musical interlude.
Visit maniacmentor.com and connect on Instagram at Maniac Mentor.
Okay, welcome back, guys.
Yeah.
And here we are. Episode 94 is a product-based business for me. We're going to help you decide that today. And we've got just a few points. First of all, right off the bat, are you the type of person that has an invention rattling around in your head? Or maybe multiple inventions, but let's just go ahead and say one. Is there been an idea that keeps you up at night, and it's a physical thing, or maybe it's a software solution, but right now we're just talking about inventing something that needs to be produced, that you could manufacture and get in the hands of people? Are you an inventor? So we're not going to go into what to do after that just yet. We've already handled that in some other episodes, but on this episode, we want to help you figure out if a product-based business is for you. And so you got to ask yourself this question: do I have an invention? Have I invented something in my head and I just haven't put together all the details to make that a manifestation in the physical world yet? So what about that, Matt? Have you ever met an inventor?
Actually, I haven't. But man, I swear, I've told a lot of people this story. I don't know if people believe me or not, but whenever I was 17, 18, I came up with the idea for rain sensing windshield wipers. And this was before they were around. And I was just like, man, this would be like awesome. And I was like really hyped on it because like no cars had them. And it was just whenever they first started coming out with that the sensors that turn the lights on in the car, the headlights automatically, it just came out. And I remember seeing a car with that. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then thinking of rain sensing wipers. And obviously, I had no idea. I wasn't a tech guy. I was just really an idea guy. But that was something. I mean, look now, like almost all the cars, new cars have rain sensing wipers on them. I could have been a millionaire or a
Yeah, I know.
billionaire.
Could have been a millionaire off that idea. And yeah, I've told this story before in past episodes, but I'm going to tell it again real quick. Okay, my dad was the type of person that came up with crazy ideas like that. So we're talking, this is like the mid 60s, late 60s, early 70s. There was a TV in the house, and everybody in the whole family knows this story. Okay, so what my dad did was he opened the back of the TV. My dad being a mechanical engineer, and he understood the flow of electricity. He went inside the TV and put an interrupt line between the speaker and the volume knob. He ran a wire under the carpet across the room and made a little button next to his easy chair. And they called it the commercial killer. So my dad invented the mute button in the late 60s, a remote mute button, but never took it to market. So obviously that was something somebody else made $1 billion off of. That's a $1 billion idea, right?
Yeah, by now, absolutely. Yeah. So do you have an invention? Do you have an idea for something, that like, will really work, like something that solves a problem or, helps people with processes or whatever it is? Are you an inventor? And if so, then maybe you create a product, and maybe a product-based business is for you.
That's right. And then next one is maybe you deal with a product every day and you see that there's a weakness in that product. You have an idea that will improve something that everybody else is already using, right? Like my dad's idea wasn't to invent a new TV. His idea was actually improve the TV by adding this new feature to it. So maybe you have an idea in your head that's an improvement. Write down all the details of what that improvement would entail of. Is it physical? Is it is it something online? Whatever. But do you have an improvement to an existing product that you're already handling? And so, so how about you, Matt? I mean, anything you'd like to improve in your life?
Well, where do I start? No. But I was just thinking when you were saying that, man, I think, there's still inventions these days, especially in the tech era, but, probably, all the way up until maybe the late 90s or whatever. I mean, obviously I could be wrong about this, but I think that a lot of the inventions were really improvements on things that started out early, and maybe they were crude, but they fixed something and it worked. But somebody was just like, man, I can improve on this. And I can't think of any examples right now. Well, I can tell you the one thing that nobody has been able to improve on.
Okay.
What do you think that is?
Nobody has been able to improve on something that everyone uses every day.
Every day of their life.
The light switch is improved on all the time. The doorknob. I don't know. What is it?
The wheel.
Oh yeah. That's so funny you said that. It's like, not to get political, but you're quoting Trump, dude. He literally just said that yesterday in a meeting with a bunch of people. Yeah. He said, you know what? He said, there's a couple ideas that you don't need to change. Walls and wheels. That's what he said. He said they still work and you don't need to change them.
Oh, God. I had no idea that he said that. But yeah, that's the one thing nobody could improve on because, I mean, hey. All right. So the next one is a lead on a new market. So maybe you see a trend starting to happen or something coming in. Now, fads and trends are different things, although you can make a lot of money off of fads. It's just like real quick and then it dies. But if you see like a new market coming before other people, and then you can kind of jump on that. Do you have any examples about that?
Yeah, you've got a lead on a new market. Okay, so I saw somebody showed me an invention a couple years ago that was this really, really great thing. And what it was is, okay, every restaurant purchases, they spend a lot of money on things like disinfectants and degreasers and, floor products and stuff like that. And I saw somebody come in and he said, hey, I've got a new trend and it's water. And I was like, okay, what? And then he showed me the invention, and what the invention was really incredible. It was something that changed the pH balance of the water, and it could make it so far pH wise on the alkaline side that it could use just the tap water coming out of the tap. You run it through this thing, and the water that comes out on the other side is so alkaline that you can use it as a degreaser. You can use it as a sanitizer. You could use it all this stuff. So, just one example there. I mean, but as far as like a new market, right? Like something that you see coming down the pipe, I feel like, here's just an idea, just something thrown out there. I met some guys recently, just a couple days ago. They were all in town and here in Jacksonville at a convention, and they sell college, high school and college textbooks. Okay, so there's a new market, and they are the old market, right? And the new market is, it's not just the tablet, right? It's somehow being able to sell your textbook to the student without them being able to duplicate it and give it away to everyone, right? There's a new market emerging right there, because textbooks are out. So the new thing that's in is the tablet. That's how people are reading. That's how people are learning. And so to me, a new market would be, there's a product. It's not a 3D product. It's something that happens in the software world, right?
Yeah.
But that's a new market,
Yeah. You know what was a new market, and then it died pretty quickly, but well, at least here in the States it did, but a lot of people made a lot of money off of it. Was what was that, where people go around and they search Pokemons with their phone?
Oh, Pokemon Go. Yeah.
Yeah, Pokemon Go. Yeah, exactly. Shows you how old I am. I was like, that thing with the pokey thingies.
Well, I have kids that played it, so
Right, exactly. But like that was hot. There was a lot of things like I forget what it was, but there was like a whole internet marketing craze of how to use Pokemon Go to make money or something like that. But there was a lot of money that was made off of that for the people that saw this market. This was really a fad, but it created a market, and then that fad died, and then so the market is no longer there. But that was one thing too that I could think of recently.
No, that's a really great example. All right, so now we want to think about, another way, if you'll know if you're supposed to be getting into a product-based business based on this. Ask yourself this question: do you have special access to some sort of an item? Do you have special access to something? I don't know what it is. It could be that, for me, for example, my mom had her own fabric store. My dad had his own computer store. Right. So I, as a kid growing up, had access to specific items. Right. And I could see, for my dad, it was build your own thing. Right. But at the end of the day, they always had a bunch of stuff that was going to get thrown away. So do you have access to something that's, maybe it's not that. Maybe it's something different. Let me give a different example. Special.
Actually, hold on. I have a perfect example. And it was the first quote unquote business. It was the first side hustle I ever had. I was in second grade. My dad owned a office repair business, and he did that for many years. He fixed typewriters, fax machines, copiers, stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And he had a small office supply store. And, it was like, they don't, well, okay, I guess Office Depot or Office Max or something like that. But like that, but it was a small one. People could come in and they could get their copy paper, pens, pencils, stuff like that. Well, he always had excess click pens, right? And I remember when I was 2 years old, I went into the stockroom, I took a box of click pens, and I took it to school with me, and I sold them for 50 cents each.
Bro, you were born to do this, man. Yeah, look at that, dude.
I remember I had a little orange Tupperware with a little, I made it kind of like a piggy bank with a little, I cut a hole out on it, and I had the box with the pens in my backpack, and they'd be like 50 cents, and I put it in my orange thing. I sold almost all of them before the day was over, and a school patrol caught me and took me and turned me in, and they made me give back all the money.
Oh man, that's not right, dude. They're trying to
Yeah.
stomp out. That's what they do in school, right? They try to stomp out that entrepreneurial fire as quick as
Yeah.
possible, right? But
Yeah.
he probably thought you needed a business license to do that, right? It's like, come on, man.
No selling on school
Ignorant,
grounds.
dude. Exactly, right? Because then everyone would do it, right? You're like, well,
Right.
but why don't they then?
Exactly.
Yeah. So special access to an item, that's a great example of that. And we're thinking micro, macro, it doesn't matter. Do you have special access to something that people need, and you can use that as a product to get to other people? Thrift store. Do you have a collection of stuff? And I mean, if you're a collector, man, it's like it's a no-brainer. If you're a collector of stuff, you have a product-based business waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Whether it's selling, buying, trading, whatever, and the thing that you're an expert in, go into that business, because if you're a collector, you're rare and there's a need there that you can fill. So next thing, fix a problem that you deal with. So maybe you're already in a business, right? Maybe you're in a business and there's a problem. There's an inconvenience with something that you always have to solve that inconvenience. So you've created something, you've created a product or whatever that allows you to deal with the problem that you always have to run into, right? So a perfect example of this for me is I have a friend. My example is my buddy owns a company in California, and he builds custom gates for people. Okay. So he's got a problem. The problem that he has to solve all the time is that in order for him to do all these custom gates for people, and he has a very unique way of doing it, he has to make his own tools. So he took me on a video tour the other day of his warehouse, and his warehouse is literally filled with tools that he has created because he can't buy these tools, right? I mean, he's created all of these own custom tools so that he can make this special thing happen to build the gate exactly the way that he wants to do it. And there's nothing on the market for him to buy. So he fixes that problem that he deals with all the time by just building his own custom things, right? So I feel like he could trademark and patent every one of those special tools. And that's another $1 million market right there,
Yep. Exactly. And the next one and the last one for this episode is repurpose materials. So like this was a good example. So like remember like you said, Jeffrey, back in the day when they had the playgrounds, and it was like a lot of that mulch and whatnot that was on the playgrounds, and then they started painting the mulch. Remember that, like the wood chips, and the kids would run around on that. Nowadays it's mostly all rubber. It's the rubber chips. So somebody must have had access to a ton of rubber tires, ran it through a chipper, and, was just like, here. Although maybe not, because if they were steel belted tires, then that gangly wire might not be so good. But somehow, somewhere, somebody had access to a whole bunch of rubber, right, that they chipped up and said, this is perfect, for the kids to run around on and whatnot. So that's a really good example of repurposing materials and making a lot of money off of it.
That's it, man. Somewhere in that person's brainstorm, they said, oh my gosh, this is perfect. It doesn't cut you. But they had 2 steps in the process, right? They said, okay, if we're getting steel belted radials, we have to create somewhere in our process that removes the steel, and we end up with just the rubber, right? It separates those 2 items. But ultimately, you've got something that now was going to be thrown into a landfill, and you can turn around and sell that thing for, $20 a pound or whatever, right? I mean, it's like, whew, you just made worth out of something that was one man's trash and another man's treasure. You made treasure out of it. So that's just a couple of examples, guys. And so, that's pretty much it. You got anything else, Matt?
No, I don't think so. I think, I want to throw in here, you're going to be see us really trying to condense these podcasts shorter, and to just like give you as much information as possible, actionable tips or stuff to make you go, get those brain juices going. But we're going to try and keep them short, compact, just like, shot in the arm. And this way, it's easier for you guys to listen to on the way to your commute, or to like sneak it during your lunch break, or even while you're working, you can just pull us up on YouTube and watch with your headphones on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
we won't be mad at you.
Yes. Somebody on my team, she does that. Every time we come out with a new podcast, she's like, "Oh, I listen to the podcast." I'm like, "But you're at work." She goes, "Yep." Like, right on. She's got a little sneaky earbud over in one side. She's listening to the podcast while she's typing away doing her work, which really, she says, doesn't require much thought. It's just, it's sort of brainless work. And so while she's droning through her day, she listens to us. So, well, that's it from us on this podcast, guys. And before we go, there's a couple things we want to ask you about. Number one, shoot us an email at podcast@maniacmentor.com. That's podcast@maniacmentor.com. So if you have an idea for an episode, something you want us to tackle, question you want us to answer, or if you're interested in being a guest on the show, that's number one. Number two, we want you to subscribe to our podcast. Okay, wherever it is that you're catching this information. Now it's going up on YouTube. Please smash that subscribe button, turn on your notifications so that you will know every time we post a new podcast. And give us a review, give us some stuff in the comments. We want some interaction from you guys. We want to know if we're helping you, or if we missed the mark, go ahead and criticize us. You won't hurt our feelings at all. We just want to hear from you. So subscribe. And number three, we want you to share. It's the power of reciprocity. We're giving you all this stuff for free. We're not bogging you down with commercials at this point, although, we probably will move into some ad bids soon. But in the meantime, either way, it's still costing you nothing. And so what we want you to do to pay that forward is to share our podcast, post them up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, email people, whatever. Share the links, put them on a text message, share it in Messenger, share our podcast with everybody you know.
Everybody. I don't know why that's so funny. All right. This has been your Maniac Mentors, Matt and Jeff, with your Monday Motivational Minutes, episode 94. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope we were able to help you get some things going, get the juices flowing, get some ideas going. And remember, an idea is nothing unless you take it out and you put it on paper. So this way you can start acting on it. So make sure you do that. And have a great morning, afternoon, day, evening, wherever you are, whenever you are listening to us. Please be blessed, stay motivated, and always stay focused. We'll catch you guys on the flip side of another week. Later.
Be sure and visit maniacmentor.com and follow him on Instagram @maniacmentor.